views and opinions expressed on the show are strictly those of the host and guests and do not reflect the opinions of LEP Productions and its affiliates.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Getting to Know. What's happening? There's Jason McKay smiling.
Jason's drunk.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
I'm going to let you take it from here, Jason. Come on.
No, hopefully, can you guys hear the singing in the background?
Absolutely.
Can you? All right. Well, here's the deal. So today is my daughter's bridal shower, which started at my future son-in-law's dad's house and is now spilled over into my basement. So what you guys are going to hear is karaoke. That's what we've got going on. So I may even run a camera out there for a minute just so you guys can see it. But anyways, no, it's perfect because our guest tonight, Scott, you are one of my brothers, man. You are one of my closest friends ever. We've known each other for a long damn time.
Yeah, been a long time.
But it's fitting because there's karaoke going on in the background, and you are one of the karaoke singing masters that I know. I said earlier, I sang a little Tenacious D in your honor before the show. But you know, we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. We're going to do back-to-back shows. We're trying to give you, and this was actually, honestly, this was Scott's idea a few months ago before we were on set for Cruel Summer 2, the sequel, which we'll talk about, obviously. Scott had talked to me, and he was like, you know, hey, because I do a lot of conventions here in the area, and Jay helps me, and Scott's been to a ton of them for me, but he was like, you know, this basically it's 10 years since GHI has filmed their last episode. And wouldn't it be cool to try to get everybody together for some sort of an event? And obviously, you know, with today's society and the money and everything else, it's really hard to get everybody flights and get everybody into a venue for an event. So I thought, talking with Jay, it'd be fun just to do like a bunch of shows back to back and have a ton of the cast from Ghost Hunters International on, so we could talk about the television. We could talk about you know, what you guys did and what's happening. And then also, like Jay said, talk about what you're doing now, man, with Los Bastards and everything else. So, Scott, brother, it's I miss you already, man.
Same here.
Seems like it's been yesterday once I saw you, but it's been about a month or so since we last saw each other. But man, I appreciate you taking an hour out of your time to come and sit with us. So first and foremost, for the people that have lived under a rock for 87 years, tell everybody who you are and you know, about your GHI and how long you run and that sort of thing.
Scott Tepperman. I was on Ghost Hunters International for the second half of season 2 and all of season 3, and then the show's canceled. If you want to draw kind of parallels to that, that's fine. But I was on about half of the run at the end of the second half of the run of the show, and I was a regular. If you watched mostly any of season 2 and any of season 3, I was on there. I was on there all the time. And then at that time, I've always been interested in, as you know, like indie horror films and B movies and low budget, mostly horror. I just like the whole independent feel to independent film and the family that's built there, because we're all fighting an uphill battle because it's not Halloween. It's thinking Halloween. It's not Hollywood, and we're very underfunded. We're very underappreciated. So it's always getting a lot of people to jump in, help out when they can. And it's always fighting an uphill battle in terms of getting distribution, getting actually exposure, and just being taken seriously. So I've always been interested in that stuff. And when I was on Ghost Hunters, I had already been talking to some people online about possibly appearing in some of their movies. It was very easy to reach out. You just find things online, and I started connecting with people. and I hit it off with a lot of people and made the right contacts. And I started getting involved with some of these films. And when Ghost Hunters International ended, I basically jumped right into working with Jim O'Rear. Obviously, you know the infamous Jim O'Rear. And so we were working on a lot of projects back then when people just liked our chemistry. They thought we were really good behind the camera as well as in front of the camera. And so we did that for about 3 years or so. And then we formed Los Bastards Productions, our independent film company, in 2015. And we're just churning them out right now. And it's just been a huge. I've been so blessed and so grateful for the opportunities that been able to make friends and professional as well as personal, and sometimes both. Obviously, like with Jason. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a great experience all around.
I tell you what, I really didn't know that much about the indie film. We've discussed this off before until I got it with Jason, got to hang around with Jason, talk with him more, and then meeting you. And it's up in my eyes, up to a whole different. Well, now we're trying to do our own thing now. So what's that tell you? I went from knowing nothing to trying to do something. Thanks, Scott. It's all your fault.
Right.
No, it's tough, man. It's like, people think, this still goes back to ghost hunting stuff, but people get they get up with a smartphone and they think now they're an investigator. They have a cell phone that can record video and record audio, and they're a ghost hunter. They don't realize what goes into it. So same thing with filmmaking. People have iPhones now. Yes, some of these iPhones will film better than a lot of cameras out there. That doesn't mean you're a filmmaker, especially indie film. I think it's harder for indie film than Hollywood personally, because you're working with nothing. You're working with nothing. You're calling in favors left and right. You're working with nothing, a very low, if non-existent budget. You have no time to do stuff, no time to turn stuff around, and you don't have 50 people helping out behind the scenes. It's really something that you need to do and see through to the end. Ghost hunting also, people want to go out and film whatever, and they never want to do the research and the evidence review and analyze all your footage and everything. That doesn't make you a ghost hunter. It's not what. It's not that easy to just wake up one day and say, "Hey, I'm going to make indie film." It's a lot of people that, especially getting into it more and more. I've been doing it almost about 10 years now, and I see more and more people that I thought were like the real Rock of Gibraltar's falling off, saying, "I'm done. I can't do it anymore. That's it." And it's crazy. And so the ones that stick with it, it's getting harder and harder for us. But at the same time, it's empowering more of us, because it's like, well, damn, we're not kind of vying for that same that same Indiegogo campaign now, or that whatever, because less of them are around. But it's tough. It's getting really tough. But you have to deliver. You have to respect your audience and appreciate your audience, because without them, you don't have a movie. You don't. I've had the luxury of some private financiers for the past few films, but they don't do the whole thing. They supplement some of it, and we raise the rest of it. And we don't have that. We just raise more, and we've turned to the general public numerous times, but I felt like we've delivered, and everyone's been very happy. And a lot of these projects, people announce, they run a campaign, people donate stuff, and they never see anything. And then they get skeptical. They get skeptical about digging into their pockets the next time something opens. They're like, "Hey, I'm not going to do this. I didn't get anything. They promised me a DVD or a T-shirt, never got it." We deliver all the time, and people know that. And it's just the way to do it, man. Don't fight the hands that feed you. Seriously.
Absolutely. I just want to win the millions, Mega Millions, so I can finance my.
Right. Well, if it helps at all, I'm $8 poor. I didn't win it, but we just threw a couple of bucks in our pocket for a few things.
Well, I'll set a few million off to the side for financing, indie films, things, and projects I want to get involved with.
That's it. Yeah. That's all you have to do.
If I won $1 billion,
we'll make it happen.
Yeah, hell yeah, let's have some fun. The good thing about that is I would definitely be the guy that finances it. I don't know shit that's going on, so I ain't going to tell you how to do your film.
That's a good way. Sign on partner. Give us some money. Go away. We'll get it.
Watch.
Right. Yeah, we'll definitely put something out there for you.
Yeah, we actually do have. We've had a lot of people that have been like that. And we told them, with anything, but I think indie film in particular, there's a huge risk. We can't promise anything because there's nothing. You can't tell people you're going to get stuff on the back end. People always hear that term, but there is no back end with indie film. There's really not. You know, it's a matter of
investigating indie films is like playing the stock market.
it really is. And you could do
is.
very well, but you may not. There's a few, like a tiny amount that actually do something. And mostly what it is having enough disposable cash to get around, that you might be able to invest in a film and have people kiss your ass for doing it. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, because I can't, I listen, and Jason is invested in some of our films too, but I'll be the first one to say, you know, as soon as we get money, that's where it goes. It doesn't go in my pocket. That's where it will go. We haven't gotten anything yet. That's just because especially when you deal with indie film as well, and listen to this crap, but you have some companies out there that will put your film out and distribute it and get it out there for people to see. They'll take upwards of 90% of the profits. This is your movie. So it's insane. Yes, you can get it out there, but you get nothing. And then they build up a huge, we have to recoup our costs first. And some of the costs are, we're going to have to cut a trailer. It's going to be $100,000 on top of whatever. Yeah, well, no, I have my own trailer and it's pretty good. Yeah, well, we're going to use our own. They want to charge you for it. So it's, and I understand certain times.
And they do that. Right. They want to do their own posters. They want to do their own artwork. They want to do their own. So what they do, and I mean, I've had this much, as Scott has had this much, but what they do is they say, okay, we want to purchase your film. We like your film, and they have that. We can get it on this network and that network and this platform and that platform and this, but here's what's going to happen. We need to redo the poster. We need to redo your art. We need to redo this. We're going to do a bunch of different things.
Right.
And then they say, okay, we're going to do a 70-30 on the film. Let's just say 70-30.
Which is actually a good split. But again, keep in mind, 70-30, that's their 70, your 30.
No, exactly. And you don't make any money until they recoup all of their advertising costs. So it might be $10,000 of advertising costs to get all your films out to, you know, Hulu and Netflix and everything else. Whether it is or not, but you know, to get it out there, to have it in all these film festivals and all that stuff. So when they start making money on selling the film, they may own your rights for 2 or 3 years, and they get 70. They're going to get all their money back before you make anything.
Right.
So it could be a couple of years, or it may be never that you
and what
get
sucks
to
is the movies
anything.
don't. Right, and the movies aren't getting any newer. So you know, they're a lot of these things, kind of like box office in the theater. They're front loaded, which means when they come out, their sales are going to be there and then they're going to diminish. So if you don't hit right away, they're not also going to turn around and, unless you repackage it and spruce it up and pepper other crap in there and try to remarket it to people, which people don't appreciate because people are treated like they're looking like, oh, you're treating me like an open wallet, not a person. With indie film, I think you kind of have to do that. I mean, we're being a little shrewd with Cool Summer too, because when we were selling discs for the Indiegogo, we are doing one disc with an extra scene and one with an extra bonus feature, and both are going to be very good, but you pick one or the other. One has artwork and one has different artwork. I mean, we don't want to make them identical and just offer it on DVD and Blu-ray because people will buy one or the other. We want everyone to buy both. Now, the one thing that we've lucked out with is, I'm not saying that we're still not making anything, but Los Bastards, people actually know us now. And that doesn't mean that they're flocking to our films or they're doing whatever, but they do know us. So when we start trying to get deals, people are like, oh, you guys, like, people actually know us. So it's helping us get decent deals. I cannot believe we've landed on a very good deal for Cruel Summer, and a very good deal for Cruel Summer 2 as well. And Cruel Summer 2 is not even, there's nothing to screen for it. It was just based on us and what we've delivered in the past fits people's, their genre and their target audience, and they've already taken it. So it took a very long time to get here, but this is even taking into account like The Hospital and Fat Chance and all that stuff that we worked on that wasn't even under Los Bastards at the time. It was just Jim and I attached to the project. Well, it was Jim's project, but Jim and I attached to it, and me working so close with him, people kind of associate all that with these. and it's been a godsend for us because now we're actually getting some. Well, at least for these two films, we've managed to get some very good deals in place, very good, like unheard of deals. And I'm hoping. I mean, my number one thing is to get it out there for people to see. But enough of that. Now it's trying to get people to get my investors covered and pay them back. I mean, that's always been my main thing, is to get it out there. My main thing too is getting the cast and crew that work so hard on it. They want to see their work. They want to, because this is one of the things that are on our contract here, is it's a good chance it may up on Showtime or Shudder. And that's like saying, hey, I worked on that, go check it out. It's not on. We have stuff on Tubi. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not like it's on Tubi or YouTube. It's on Showtime. Go check it out. That's pretty cool. And so that's a reward for people that have basically upended themselves for a week to work on our movie without really much financial compensation. Unfortunately, we do what we can do. But I don't come from money, and I don't have any money. I can't reach into my pocket and pay for stuff on my own. So at least I try to get everybody to be happy with what's out there and actually have it out there. Because to this point too, with indie film, it's again like the ghost hunting thing. So many people have a film. I have a film. I have it wrapped or have whatever, and they're sitting on it for years. Get it out there. I don't know how to have it distributed. Do the research. I did the research. Now, granted, I had a partner that was a veteran Hollywood guy for 40 years. But yeah,
not
right,
me. He's got Jim O'Rear, which is I'm gonna tell you what, that man is he's amazing. So let's do this before we start delving into the indie films and everything else. A lot of our listeners are all about the paranormal. So let's spend at least the next 10 or 15 minutes.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Let's talk about GHI. Let's talk about first and foremost how you found out about it, how you got on the show, what was the process in
so
you.
Well, I'll say before we get into that, your post the other day made me very excited, and you'll get into that towards the end of this. But I love that post the other day.
Yeah, there's a couple things. One, I had a paranormal team here and where I lived, and when I first started out, these guys I didn't even know about paranormal teams at all, and I wasn't really interested. I've always been, you guys may be different, but usually people have had experiences when they were younger that they couldn't explain, or they were close to somebody that passed away, and they really wanted to get into learning more about what's out there that drew them into it. That was never the case with me. I was just a big horror fan, and I would rent all these movies in the video store. And then, I would rent all the slasher and bloody films and all that stuff. And then I started renting all these, I think they were called supernatural and fantasy films at the time, but it was like Poltergeist, Amityville Horror, and all that. And I started realizing that you can hear from, we're trying to work on it, but you can hear from my accent, I'm not really from Mississippi. So I wasn't too far from the Amityville Horror House in Long Island, and I didn't know that it was a real thing, or supposedly a real thing back then. And so I was young, but I started really getting interested in that stuff. There was I'd read a lot of books. I actually read books before I burnt out on reading when I majored in English in college.
You're a reader, Scott?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. A reader?
I used to. But I used to read up a lot on Amityville Horror. I'd go to when I was at the library with my family or whatever, I would look up like the microfiche or microfilm stuff and read all these stories about Amityville. And I was like, there's something that was going on here. And the thing I'll never forget is I actually got to Amityville once. I went to visit it. And beautiful, affluent neighborhood. But when you turn down that street, and regardless of all because there's BS about that story, and people have been trying to, knock everyone down involved with that for years. But we turned down that street, and it felt like time stopped. I didn't understand when I was younger. I didn't understand anything like that. I wasn't reading into anything. I wasn't looking for something. I tell you, it looked as if you walked through a different portal or a dimension. It was just like you walked in, there was no air. Not that you couldn't breathe, but like everything was still. Everything was still. I'll never forget that feeling. So that got me really interested in it. So when I finally moved to Florida, I found out there was a paranormal team out in North Florida. And I was like, I didn't know this was a thing. Let me check it out. And I joined this group of investigators. Thought they were shit-ass investigators, but joined up with them. And 3 or 4 years after that, I formed my own team. and we didn't do a hell of a lot either. But you know, it was what it was. And one of the people on my team at that time, they had told me about a contest that they had on the sci-fi website. They basically was like GHI was looking for an investigator. It was literally a casting call, and I was not interested because years before there had been I was obviously a fan of Ghost Hunters. Who wasn't? But it looked like every season or something, Ghost Hunters had a contest where, like, you know, do you have what it takes to investigate? Then sign up online and let us know about yourself, and you can come be a guest. You know, maybe you win a guest spot on the show, or you know, let us know about you, and you can win this box of equipment. You know, it had things like that. I don't remember exactly, but I think those were two of them. And I busted my ass. I like wrote up all this stuff. I would like, they wanted this much. I gave them like this much. Like I gave them so much. I never even heard back. And that's just how things are. I mean, there's no bitterness. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
But you didn't hear anything back. So when this casting call came out for GHI, I was like, hell with that. I'm not, and I like GHI better because I thought the locations were cool. But I was just like, I'm not even going to waste my time because, I didn't hear back before. Why should I do anything now? But unbeknownst to me, my team member submitted my stuff along with their stuff as well. And the two of us were contacted by the people, I guess Pilgrim. I think that's who it was. I don't know if it was Sci-Fi or Pilgrim, but I think it was Pilgrim.
No, it's Pilgrim.
And they started.
No, it's Pilgrim.
But they had lengthy interviews on the phone, and we would talk for a very long time. They flew me out to California and did a screen test and had me do a psychological evaluation, like all this crazy stuff. And they stopped doing that with the other person on my team, and they kept pursuing me. And literally, they called me up one day, and they said, "This is how they said it," but they're like, "You're back," because they had a background check. They made you go like way back, and I was like in 8th grade. I was in school suspension. I was like terrible student, but like I disclosed like that far back. I'm not like 20. This is like years ago, and they came back to me and they called me up one day. I was working. And I'll never forget, I was a manager. I was in a management training program. People laugh at fast food training programs, but I actually am a licensed chef. I pursued that after I went for my bachelor's in English and did nothing with that. but I said, let's spend more money. So I went to culinary school, and I became a food and beverage management and culinary certified culinary chef. And so I was it was Hardee's, but they had a management development program, and it was a very, very extensive program, good program. Developed all these different skills, so I was proud to do it. I'm like, hell yeah. And I got a call one day, and like, is this Scott? I'm like, yeah. It's just some unassuming voice on the other end. I'm like, let me take this real quick. I ran outside, and they're like, yeah, you have like the cleanest background we've ever seen on anybody. I'm like, okay. And like, they really liked your screen test, so get a passport. Welcome to GHI. I'm like, what? Like, really? So I went inside. I was literally like, what was that? Was it half baked something? Where I'm like, F you, you're cool. F you. Like, I literally was like that. And I was on the plane like within a couple of days, and I had never even been out of the States. So it was a casting call that got me on board. But I was interested in the field, and I did have my own team. I had already had about 5 or 6 years of experience by the time I joined GHI. But it was a great opportunity. But it literally was a casting call. And the thing to realize too is with Ghost Hunters, they were the team was RIPS. I think it was RIPS, Rhode Island Paranormal Society, and they were a team that got a show. GHI was a spinoff, and we weren't a team. There's no GHI team. They handpicked us from different teams to make a GHI team, if that makes sense. RIPS was already a team that became TAPS, and they got Ghost Hunters. So this was different. We were more handpicked for this, and they handpicked. They wanted like the goth girl, the British guy, they wanted all these. This is just what they wanted. I think it worked out really well, but that's how I got on board with GHI, basically. In a nutshell, a really big nutshell. But
what was your first investigation with GHI?
Went to UK, the Robin Hood. I can't remember the name of it, but it was that Galleries of Justice with Robin Hood something. I forgot the name of the exact episode, but and they brought me in. They said something like, they do. We were never asked to lie or fake things ever. But they do doctor up some things for TV rather than saying this guy came out of nowhere, because they had Susan and Carl who just wrapped up on Ghost Hunters Academy, so they ended up on the same episode, and then I showed up out of the freaking out of nowhere. So like they had something like Rob's like, this is my friend Scott from Florida. And it's like, that wasn't your friend. I mean, yeah, we became friends, but you didn't bring me on because of that. This is how they wrote me into the show, because it was awkward. Some guy just showed up like, who's this guy?
Right. So who was the team when you got there?
When I got there, it was Rob, Susan, Carl was there for one episode. Carl Pfeiffer, great guy, very smart guy. And I think he's still at the Stanley with a good job. So if you get a chance, head over there, check out one of his tours or whatever. But it was myself, Ashley, Brandy, Rob, of course, Barry, and myself. I think that was it. And
Gotcha.
I think that Dustin was either there for a guest in or had just left or something, because apparently when he left, I kind of filled that spot when I believe, I could be wrong, but I think that was the case. And Paul, of course, Paul. We had like 7 or 8 of us when we first started. The very first episode or 2, there were a lot of us. But then Carl was not on. And then Susan was, and I was. And then, I was on a lot, and then I wasn't on a couple, and then I was on more. And then Britt came on, and then Britt left, and then I was on for the rest of the duration of the show.
So what is it? What is it like from start to finish? Like when you guys, do you guys sign a contract? Is it like you sign a contract for this many episodes, or how does?
Yeah, it's weird.
How does
No,
that
it's
work?
weird because it's exactly what it was. The one thing, and I don't have mine in here, but I hope everyone knows what a clacker board is. A clapper, and mark or action, whatever.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to have one on the set just because it made people may get the wrong connotation that things were scripted and it was more of a film or a production, and it wasn't. We literally went there, investigated. We didn't have a script. We just basically were given an idea, like, you guys are going to go here. This is a little bit about the place. Start figuring out some questions you may have. That was pretty much our script. It wasn't really a script. It was never a script, but that's what we did. So yeah, they operated it like that. I mean, it was a West Hollywood production company. So yeah, we had a contract. We had a non-compete clause. When GHI ended, we had to get released from it because we wanted to do other stuff. I think it's like for 18 months we weren't allowed to do another show, which was fine. Nobody was knocking down my door. But still, we wanted that opportunity. So like, hey, can we get out of these contracts now? We actually, I think Paul and I were the main, I don't know if we were the last holdouts for it or the ones to first reach out. I don't know how that worked. He'll probably tell you, but we actually, I think Pilgrim didn't know what was going on. Sci-Fi hadn't made a decision yet about the show, and Pilgrim literally did not know. They had no idea. They're like, look, guys, they didn't want to string us along, but it was getting a while. It was like we haven't filmed in months, and we're like, what's going on? So Paul and I decided to contact them, and they said, yeah, because we asked them, we're like, can we be released out of our contracts, be free to pursue other things? We're just sitting around. And they said, yeah, we'll release you guys, which they finally did. But they honestly didn't know what was going on. Sci-Fi kind of juggled it around a lot. And to be honest, Sci-Fi, it was cool, but Sci-Fi was the home of Ghost Hunters, and that was their baby. So they never really pushed us. They would have, usually before the final clip of the show, they would have next week on whatever, just to whet people's appetites and get them prepared for that. But instead of that, for pushing our next episode next week, they would be like, this January, the original Ghost Hunters returns. It's like, well, what the hell? How about our episode next week while people are watching? But this is the kind of thing that we dealt with a lot, unfortunately.
So,
but we got used to
like
it. But
if you guys signed a contract, did you know how many episodes where you guys were going that year, or was it like?
No, and I don't know if this was shrewd or stupid or both, but you had the cast, and I'll use the term cast. I mean, if you've seen my movies, I'm certainly not an actor, but they had the cast, and then they had the crew, which was the videographers, the audio guys, the booms, everyone, the producers, all those guys, the ones behind the scenes, behind the camera. They all got paid by the hour. The Ghost Hunters, our investigators, all of us, we got paid by the episode. So they wanted to take as long as possible to film an episode. We wanted to turn it around and wrap them up so we got our paycheck. And so that wasn't we weren't really working on the same, at the same, basically with the same thing in mind at that time. People like, no, I'll stay here all week. And I'm like, well, the hell we are. We want to get moving.
Did you work with the same crew every time?
Yeah, we did. We all had a assigned camera, one camera and audio guy, and then a producer. And the reason why they had a producer is because we weren't scripted, but they had to make it. We would film hundreds of hours, literally, of footage. And you guys would see, especially if they put 2 episodes on one episode, 2 investigations on one episode, taking out commercials, you'd see 20 minutes of an investigation. We spent, sometimes a couple of days with all these cameras running, our cameras as well as people filming us. So what they needed to do is, when Joe and I would walk into something and we really would hear something, I'm like, Joe, what the hell was that sound? They would look and say, okay, 8 minutes and 55 seconds, check this, to the editor notes, check this because Scott heard something, just to give them a jumping off point. And that was the extent of their intrusion on us. They literally just let us do our thing. They said, go in here. We weren't allowed to go back into the same location after we went once, because they didn't want it to be influenced by it. And we weren't really supposed to talk to the other teams about what we experienced in each. We each 2 of us would go into each location, but they didn't want us to influence each other. Just understandably, you would do that. Like if I was investigating with Jay and I'd said, hey, Jay, every day at midnight when I'm cooking eggs, I look up in the corner and there's an orb or some shit, So what's Jay going to do? He's going to try to recreate cooking eggs at midnight and see what's up there. We didn't want to influence each other. So we just kind of kept it fresh and first time in, first time out for that stuff.
I'd have done
but
it.
We all were like that. We all were. What's that? I just picked something stupid. So that was the word that I know nobody likes.
I'm having fun with you, brother. I'm just having fun with you. If you just said a demon, I'd have been there. But you said an orb.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Only if it's a red orb. If it's a red orb, then it's a demon.
They're angry ones. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then
it's a redneck when I can relate to it.
But what I will say, what's interesting is and I'm not. If you mentioned it, that's fine. I'm not going to say anything. But last week I was supposed to be on the show, and something came up out of my control. It was you guys, and so Jason was talking about me. He's like, let's reschedule whatever. And yeah, he brought up the idea, and I'm like, yeah, let's have Paul and I on the same night. What makes sense to me is that early on when I was on GHI, I think it was that Galleries of Justice and 1 or 2 other episodes, Paul and I actually investigated together. I investigated with Rob before we got set in our permanent teams. Like Joe Chin was my partner all the time. But for the first few episodes, we were all kind of shuffled around a little bit. So-and-so would be working with them. And then the next commercial break, that same person was now with somebody else. Like that's just what they did. And so Paul and I, everyone has said this, and they said this over the years, and Kim and I were actually caught some of and I'll plug it. If you haven't seen Ghost Hunters International, it is now on Peacock, and it is free, I believe, so go check them out. Ones that only feature me are the only good ones, but no, it's cool stuff. But Paul and I work really well together, and every single person says that we have good chemistry. And I thought it'd be cool that we were on the same show back to back. It's weird because we have a love-hate relationship, and he's seriously like the European brother I never wanted. But I love the guy. And what's weird is, he and my partner, Jim over here, our business partner, they never got along that much. And when we did this film called The Hospital, Paul and I were trying to get a little thing going with our dynamic duo. We were trying to push ourselves as a team for GHI. And
those were fantastic T-shirts, by the way. I'm just saying.
They were, and from very talented people that did them. I don't know who, but yeah, right. But we really were connecting with people, and people really liked the 2 of us together. And everyone would always say, "You guys should work together. You guys should work together. Always work together." And I don't know why we never did. But when my business partner and he and Paul kind of had some words, and then The Hospital came out, that movie, which didn't make it easier when Paul's trying to push this more wholesome GHI image, and the movie Hospital is not really wholesome.
Not a wholesome family movie.
Right.
Not a wholesome family movie.
So when we would do events together, we would have tables, either shared table or right next to each other. A lot of times I'd have copies of The Hospital there, and it caused rift. Paul wasn't happy with that. And to make a long story short, Paul and I stopped talking for a while. I'd say it was maybe a year or two. I don't know. It was pretty long time. But we started talking again, and it's like nothing, no time has passed, and our chemistry is still there. And I think that GHI, to be honest, I think they missed an opportunity to get us together. We have, chemistry is tough. You can train like work ethic. You can train certain things that you need done. You can't force chemistry like Stephen Tango or those guys are great together.
Stephen
They're
Dave,
just
yeah.
Stephen Dave.
Stephen Dave
They are
good, yeah.
great together, and it's clearly it's unforced. I mean, I've seen them. I don't really. I'm acting like I know them. I don't really know them, but I've seen them at events, or I saw them the first time when I went to do my screen test. I saw them. They were leaving the hotel as I was coming in. They secured a place to film at Ghost Hunters, and then we were able to use that for our screen test for GHI for me. But I saw Steve and Tango in the lobby of the hotel, and even that moment, I could just tell they were friends. They were close. They were cool. That's just how it is. And a lot of times you see these shows coming out and they try to force chemistry that's not there. And I think they missed an opportunity with Paul and I. And he and I agree. You said you read something that I wrote. Like I'm thinking I may want to be getting back into the paranormal a little bit. Paul and I have been talking about this for a while, and we've been talking about different ideas and doing this and that. And I think, to be honest, we don't need much of a gimmick. We just need the chance to work together in front of the camera, and I think people will see we're entertaining, but we're good. But we're good together.
You need camera guys. Is that what you
right?
said?
Yeah, we need network and backing, but I think we're good together. Yeah, I think he and I are good together, and I think that was a missed opportunity. Seriously, I really do.
Episodes was you guys, and it was, I think it was a courtroom area or something over there in the UK, and the interaction, the chemistry that you guys had, and the
nothing scripted. It just he brings out either the best or the worst in me. I don't know. Right, exactly. And I do the same with him. But we're just even when we just did Scarefest together in October. We're good together. We just play off each other really well, and it's like I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I love the guy, and I really would like to do something. We're talking about it. We're just trying to figure out we keep thinking, what gimmick do we need? I'm like, we may not need a gimmick. We just need to be showcased together on the screen together. So keep in mind, whoever's listening, networks or producers, hey, give it a shot.
But that's the biggest problem with a lot of people who for the people that don't actually investigate, that watch them for the entertainment purposes and all those things, the gimmick is the thing that you need to look at. But for people like myself or Jason and all the people that's in our chat room that we know that investigates, that's one of the biggest things they say about the place and most of the shows nowadays is the gimmick. They don't need a gimmick. Be you. Do you.
Right. Well, the gimmick for Well, the gimmick for GHI was the fact that there really wasn't a gimmick. I mean, our locations were big, and when we first started, the producers they said something to the effect of, and I don't remember exactly, but they almost thought that we were interchangeable or disposable because it was all about the locations. It took them a little while to realize that each one of us was developing our own following. I had my own fans. Paul had his own fans for some reason. But we all had our group, so we would bring all our people to the show. So they started realizing, okay, you guys are not just interchangeable. Like, we can't just throw you in and out because people where's Scott or where's Paul, or why wasn't Susan on a lot?
The location is only just a piece of it. If you don't have the right people at a location, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So you need the right people at a location to make everything flow into one. And you guys, not because you guys are my brothers and I know a ton of you, but GHI was my favorite my favorite paranormal show, because you guys worked well together, you meshed well together, and then you had the really cool locations that put everything together. I thoroughly enjoyed all of it.
Well, this is the thing too, is that and I guess you want to say it's a brush with Hollywood, this reality TV thing. Maybe it is, but there was a lot of egos that I've heard on different shows and this and that. And, when you go overseas, your world becomes very small because you don't know anybody and you depend on each other. And when we would go with our crew of 15 or 16, there was maybe 20, 25 of us at one given time in a country. And that became your world because you didn't really know anybody else. So you were dependent on each other. And you always have those memories and always be connected with that. Seriously, I even talk to some of the camera guys nowadays, and it's like, yeah, that was 10 years ago. We still have that experience between us. But
what was your
we actually, when the
most
cameras,
scariest?
well, when the cameras weren't running, we actually were hanging out with each other. And usually it was Paul and I that would go out on the town or hang out or do whatever. But a lot of times we'd have one day off in the country. We'd all go together. Barry would set it off and say, hey, you want to go to the beach or you want to let's do one day that will encompass as much as we can. That would be, indicative of the country. Like if we went volcano boarding one day, or we went zip lining in, I think it was Honduras or something. But whatever we did as a team. We liked being around each other. And, we weren't forced, like after the camera film stopped, we're like, oh, hell with you. Let's do our own thing. We hung out. And, it kind of shows like that. And then, like I said, there were a lot of times where certain people would fan out and do their own thing. Like we'd have, I think Susan hung out with some of the camera guys or would hang out with some of the crew. But Paul and I always found ourselves, I guess because we were closest in age and closest in personality, we'd always find ourselves doing our own thing. And it was always like that. And, I had those memories with him. So, as crazy as stuff got, we were good with each other. We had a lot of scary locations. We had one of the scariest ones for me was the fact that, and they actually caught this on camera, sometimes they don't catch stuff, but they had, I think it was a villa in Italy, and I had been investigating in the kitchen with Joe. And when you start your EVP sessions, you start asking questions, walk around, you check all the baseline temps and readings, and just try to see if you're evoking any kind of response by keep frequenting the same areas to see if there's any jump or any change or any kind of cold spots or whatever. And I kept walking around. I went into this one, I don't know if it was like a pantry or whatever, but I kept opening the door, looking, doing the readings, doing my thing. We must have been 20 minutes into the investigation. And I've checked this room like 3 or 4 times, nothing. And one time I checked it again, and I had already opened the door 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 times, whatever, and saw nothing. This particular time I walked in, I saw a full apparition, and it was had its back to me when I walked in, and it was I don't know if it was a washer and dryer or a table or something, but the torso up, it was facing the wall, and that's what I saw, and it was clear as day. I was like, holy shit, and I freaked out, and I called Joe, and he ran over. I told him what happened, and that was, I'll give credit a lot, but when Paul, I give him some credit because we called all the teams. They all converged in the kitchen, and Barry and Chris had some good ideas and all that. And then Paul's like, well, let's write it down. Let's draw this. Let's do whatever. Paul sketched it out based on what I was telling him, how it was, like to the T. He wrote it really well. And then he's like, well, I'm going to set up this and this and this and this. And he was able to he set up all this equipment, and he's like, well, this is going to gauge this, and this is like spur of the moment. We're going to have this because this is going to read this, and this is, if it shows up again, this will pick this up. And he was on it, which was cool, which they don't usually show on the show, unfortunately, which is why, sidetracking here a little bit, but Trending Fear, when I watched that, I told him, because he asked me to watch it, I checked it out. I think he did a hell of a job, and I think he was represented well as a solid, smart investigator, because he did a great job on that show. Half that shit that he did on GHI, but they cut out, and they never showed it, unfortunately. But so they showed all this stuff. We got all this equipment together. Nothing ever happened for the rest of the night, of course. But you did see me freak out, which was on camera, because the camera guy picked me up doing that. But when we spoke to the owners during the reveal, when Chris and Barry spoke to the owners, they brought up the experience and told them everything, and the guy didn't even seem phased, and he was just like, yeah, there used to be a doorway there. Like, well, shit, I saw either it was a residual or something in its path getting ready to go through, in their world, a door that was still there. And so that kind of lent credibility to what I went through, and that was insane. That was one of the examples. I mean, there's we've had a lot, but that was one of them. But that was a really good one. That was one of the first things that one of the main things that I actually concretely saw without even it was a shadow, but it could have, I saw this thing and I've never seen anything like that since or before.
What was your favorite location on GHI?
We did an underwater Mayan cave system in Belize. That was great. And that was thrown together at the last minute because we were supposed to do Jonestown. And it fell apart right at the end. Wow, I don't know what was going on. I think they had some family members or some close, people that had close hand, not first hand accounts, but close hand accounts to all that. And something fell apart right at the end. So they didn't want to waste our trip to where we were. It cost money and time. And they threw this investigation together and it turned out being amazing. It was just 2 or 3 mile deep cave systems. We had to float all the equipment behind us in water. And there was one point when we were almost treading like this, and it looked like the water was rising and the ceiling was getting lower. There were points when we were like trying to breathe like that. It was insane. But that whole experience was just amazing. And that's where they had the Crystal Maiden, where a young girl had been sacrificed there years ago by the Mayans or something. And the conditions for preservation were so ripe and perfect for that the body was able to naturally decay, and all these deposits formed on it and everything. It literally looked like a fully or close to it, fully intact crystal skeleton. It's insane. Wow. And we all saw this thing. That was a great location. Great location.
I would say so. I could imagine going to Jonestown. That would be that'd be hard to pull off, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I imagine. Sure. I understand why they got it shut down, because I imagine there'd been a bunch of controversy just trying to get in there, not afterward.
Right.
Let alone.
But that's always been that's always been a dream location for me. So it would have been pretty cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are some locations to me that I just couldn't do. Other people can. My hat's off to. I'm not one that's going to go walk around Gettysburg with a recorder in my hand. I respect anyone else that does. I can't do that one. That's just one that I would have to just have my hat in my hand and be somber about. I just don't think that I could do it. Now, if I was actually in the situation to get the chance, I may change my mind. But as of this point in time, I don't think I could.
Right. There's certain things that are just exploitative, like people want to investigate Ground Zero. I mean, a lot of times, when you die suddenly or unexpectedly, or you have unresolved business, yes, of course, your soul is going to not have rest and not be where it needs to be. You're confused. You don't know what's going on. That's exploitative to do. Hey, let's check out Ground Zero. There's certain things you don't need to do.
Yeah,
that's just one of them. So yeah.
And like I said, if the people that want to, there might be some place like that I might bash them, or not bash them, but be controversial with them, saying, "Hey, I disagree." But like Gettysburg, I know a lot of people go to the Gettysburg bashes and they have a great time. I would love to go there, but as far as investigating those grounds, I couldn't do it. If you want to do it, great, go for it. That's just my personal thing.
Right.
That's my personal. I don't try to push that on somebody else's beliefs.
Right.
So shut up, Jay.
Yeah. No,
it's true though.
But let's switch gears, because we got about 15 minutes left. And if everybody listening, if you have any questions about GHI or have any questions for Scott about the show, please put them in here now. We'll come back to them. But let's switch gears. So after GHI, you started doing a little bit of acting. I was actually doing it before. I actually went to college, and my minor was theater, and I did a lot of improv and musical theater and all that kind of thing, which is weird because I can't dance or sing, but hey, whatever. It is what it is. What was your first film?
I did a movie years ago called Dave's Day Out, and it was shelved because the audio was really bad, and they just lost interest with it, lost financing from it. Apparently it never came out. Then I heard it did come out, and it's garbage. It's just crap. And that was like 20 years ago. Crap. More than 20 years ago, I think.
So I know that you are a huge horror fan, and I know that you thoroughly enjoyed the Truth or Dare series. Tim Ritter is an amazing person. let's talk a little bit about you with Tim and the opportunity to work with him, and then building that from there.
I did a couple of horror books, and one of them was they were about the most overlooked and underrated horror films out there. And one that I put was a film called Truth or Dare: Critical Madness. It was from 1986. Love this movie. Saw it years ago in a video store. Never forgot about it. And very early on, and I was probably 11 or 12 when I first saw this movie. Tim Ritter was a director. He became one of my very favorite directors of all time. Jason left. He's like, I don't care.
No, he's still not going
But
far.
I think he's pulling it up. So when I wrote this book, I mentioned Tim in there, mentioned how good it was, contacted Tim on Facebook and told him what a great guy he was, and that he had a great idea with this movie, did it with little to no budget, and whatever. And what he did was contacted me, and he was very grateful and humble and everything else. And we were having I think it was a world premiere screening of The Hospital in Kentucky. And Tim lived in Kentucky, and he's like, "Oh, I see you're going to be there. Maybe I'll come out and visit you, and we'll talk a bit." And I'm thinking he's just being nice. You know how people just like, "Yeah, sure." I just thought he was blowing smoke, but I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, whatever." He showed up at the event, which was awesome. Wanted to pay me for the copy of the book. I'm like, no, this is for you. Wanted me to sign it and all this stuff. And he had sequels to that movie over the years, and I thought they were kind of, eh. So I told him, I'm like, you need to do a part 5, because he did these little, very, very cheap direct-to-video movies in the early 90s. And I said, you should do another one. He's like, the last one was so hard for me to work on. I had a lot of issues. I wasn't really feeling it. I'm like, well, if you ever do, you really should. He started contacting me a short time after and said that he was very impressed with my insistence that he does another film. And it got the ball rolling for him, and he had ideas, and he wanted to bring me on as producer. And it's like, what? Are you kidding me? I just had an idea. I knew nothing about this stuff. Everything I did, I was working with Jim, and I was helping like half director, half producer with stuff, just like Jim and I co-directed stuff and co-produced stuff. But Tim wanted to bring me on and all this stuff and work with him. And to make a long story short, he ended up having me star in the film and direct it with him, which is a dream come true. It's like he grew up. I grew up with him being one of my favorite directors. It was just an honor to be with him for that. So that was it.
Would be. I mean, that's to get to work with someone that you have that much respect for is absolutely amazing.
Huge. And he's such a nice guy too. So humble and down to earth. That makes you better too, because when you have in your mind, you see these people, you either grow up liking their films or, kind of admiring these people or worshiping these people that you see on film, and you meet them and they're douchebags. It's like, what the hell, really? He couldn't have been any nicer. Jason can attest to that. Tim's a great guy, such a nice guy, and humble, down to earth. And, the fact that he brought me on as a star and director of one of the franchises that I absolutely loved when I grew up, like maybe attributes some of me getting into horror, is insane. Absolutely insane.
That absolutely would be.
Yeah,
that would be
it was.
real. I mean, those are moments that you don't ever want to forget. It's just, you can't forget it. It just stays with you.
No, yeah, definitely.
No, and Tim's fantastic. I thought I had some of your books here, but they're actually over there, and I got to dig boxes out. But I was going to pull out all your books, because here
he's like, tell us about it.
I'm like, hold on. Yeah, hold on a minute, because I thought I had them. I thought I had them right back here, but I didn't have them. I thought I did, but I don't.
Quit making excuses. You're just busted, dude.
I honest to God, he knows I have every one of his books.
Yeah.
Well, and just see, but I got Mama D over there in the chat room saying, "My gracious, that way when I look good when I do this stuff." And you can always go find Scott here.
There you go. That has to be updated. I usually keep my site updated, but it is not at all right now. I'll probably do it.
I mean, seriously, it's every night of it's every show is right here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I see it. Yep.
Every show.
Absolutely.
And I have had just an amazing time with your brother, and I appreciate you bringing me on to everything. And I've grown as a filmmaker and an actor because of you. And I owe a lot of what I'm doing now and my experiences with filmmaking and acting and producing and directing from you. And I I owe you the world, man, because
No, man, I
you've
appreciate
brought
it.
me in. You've brought me in and taken me under your wing and showed me
No,
a lot of
I
things.
appreciate that, man.
And it's not easy. It's not
It's
easy
not.
at all.
It's not. I appreciate that though, but seriously, every film has been like such a team effort. Like the way the Cool Summer 2 is going to look, and you've actually shot a lot of Cool Summer 2 and learned firsthand with our very good DP. A lot of what you guys are going to see on the screen for Cool Summer 2 is because of Jason here too. So yeah, I mean, it's been an honor to have you on board as always, man. I love having you on board. It's just not the same when you're not. So it's very cool, and yeah, we'll keep doing it for sure. Absolutely.
No, it's an amazing thing. But yeah, even and I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about it, but I mean, you have other films out as well that you're acting
Mm-hmm.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you want to talk about those, I know you just posted this week that you've got another film, not Los Bastards Productions, but you're doing some acting as well.
Yeah, I just did two. I just did something for Grim Reaper 2. James Mayer, great guy, young guy. They do a lot with very little, and that's an example of how to maximize your indie film budgets or non-budgets. They do a really good job, and I always like working with them. So I just filmed my stuff for them, and it's funny because I did Grim Reaper 2 with them. Jim O'Rear, my partner, was in Grim Reaper 1. I did Graveyard Stories 2 for them. Jim O'Rear was in Graveyard Stories 1. So I seem to be aping all this. Whatever he does, I do the sequel, which is fine because, I like sequels.
Right.
And then I just was announced for a film called Coffin Tooth from my friend Matt Cloud over in Virginia. Great filmmaker has a great Night of the Living Dead um, sequel coming out called Night of the Living Dead Genesis. It's been in the works for literally years, maybe more than a decade. When I started GHI, I had already been talking about filming my scenes for that. That's how long ago it's been. But even with sometimes what they say, Night of the Living Dead was in public domain, and they don't have there's no rights for it. There are, and there's still people that are fighting for it, and it's tough. He's putting it out. He wants it to look like $1 million, and it really does. But you wait so long, and people pull out of projects, or you need more money, and he's been paying for a lot of it on his own. And he's been getting a lot of shit from people because they're like, why are you working on this project if this one's not done? He's financing that by his own. And then, when you get money for a movie, you allocate that money for one particular film. So he's not supposed to sit around and not do anything while he's trying to get this one out. But this is more than anything. He wants to get this out. It's got the original Judith O'Dea, who played Barbara in Night of the Living Dead, the first one. She's in it. She already filmed her stuff, and it's amazing. The footage I've seen is fantastic. He's got people from Dawn of the Dead, the original one. He's got me in there. For some reason, I have a southern accent, but I'm in there. But it's going to be a great film. But if it's going to take time, it's going to take time to get out there. He's doing this film called Coffin Tooth, invited me on board. I said, hell yeah, I'm going to do it. So I'm on board. Lloyd Kaufman, who's the founder of Troma, is on board, which is cool. Jim Crutton, who played the
Another
helicopter
good dude,
zombie.
man.
Yep. And then the guy that
Yeah,
played
he's
the
another good
helicopter
dude.
zombie in Dawn of the Dead, when he's walking in, his head just gets Jim Crut. He's in it as well. And I did Night of the Living Dead with him as well. So it's Shane Terry plays Coffin Tooth. He's a great guy. There's just a lot of good people attached to that one. And I love Matt Cloud like a brother. So it's good to work with him again.
Very cool. And let's we're gonna end the show with what's in your background, man. Your VHS. Just explain a little bit about that. I know you and I have worked on Magnetic Highway 2. Just explain a little bit about that and tell people where they can get that.
VHS is my life. I love the format of it. I think it's better than Blu-ray, DVD, everything else. It's obviously a piece of nostalgia, but it's an important piece of history. I think it's more than 50% of titles that were released are still haven't made it off VHS. And the reason for that is a lot of the fly-by-night companies that started early on, then they didn't have any money. They just started these things up. So they barely produced films, barely put any out, and they folded, and no one has the rights except for these people. So a lot of these films are hard to find. A lot of them are still available, but I think they look better on VHS. I think the fact that there's no place to Google titles or to look them up or stream them, your marketing was going into a video store and seeing the artwork on these titles, and seeing these big boxes would take up larger space on the shelf, and they would basically advertise what the film is. Generally, they would false advertise them, but that's part of the appeal and the nostalgia. And as an independent filmmaker struggling to get films out there, it's very inspiring too. This keeps me inspired all the time because, you with VHS and video stores, which I did 2 video store documentaries, Magnetic Highway 1 and 2. There's 2 of them. You would basically have a film that cost $2,000 on a shelf right next to a film that cost $20 million. If they were alphabetical, if it was same genre, you'd be right next to those films. So kind of even the playing field for people, rather than nowadays with the marketing when Amazon says, oh, I get money from here, so I'm going to advertise them, but I'm not going to advertise your film, or I'm going to pull it off. Everything was a level playing field on the VHS shelves. And there's a lot that plays into that. But yeah, I just collect VHS. I have literally thousands. And then I have a huge Honeymooners collection that you see kind of peeking around my shoulder over there as well, with a bunch of signed memorabilia from the original Honeymooners cast. So very cool stuff. But yeah,
they gave to you.
What's that?
Remember, I brought that one set to dinner in Kentucky that time. We saw dinner for I was like, here, you want this? Like, well, I said, no, you want it. I don't have a use for this. I don't collect.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It was a whole Halloween set or something like that.
I'm like, something like that. Nightmare on Elm Street, yeah.
Yeah,
so, but I mean,
like, are you serious? I'm like, what am I going to do with it? I don't collect them here.
And people do and people don't. Are they worth stuff? No. And they have stuff out there, people trying to grade them now and get money for. That's just ridiculous. It's just a very strange market.
I have the Diamond series of all the Disney movies.
Yeah, we've been through this, and we've been through.
I'm sitting on millions of dollars at this particular moment. I'm just waiting to cash it in.
Yeah, cash one in, and we'll make a couple movies from now until eternity.
All right.
Beauty and the Beast will have us making 20 movies from here on.
Yes.
I've just been collecting this stuff forever, and that's how it should be. And to bring up real quick, the Cruel Summer and Cruel Summer 2, I was hoping to release them close together. It's kicking my ass in editing, but the fact is I was able to secure 2 separate distribution deals, and somehow it looks like they're both going to be released within about 6 months of each other, which is prime. Absolutely couldn't ask for anything better than that. And they're both going to be seeing DVD, Blu-ray, streaming, and a VHS release, which is amazing. So I'm just beside myself, very excited.
What's the convention?
There may be a Cool Summer 3 coming.
What's the convention in August that Cruel Summer is going to be played, and then you're going to be doing a trailer as well?
Yeah, well, we're doing it's a rare screening because we've only had the premiere in basically one other place that nobody was at because it was a shit convention. But we're doing Phantasm Orlando in August, 2 weeks, the 19th through the 21st. Friday night, the 19th, is we're going to actually be showing Cool Summer. It's the final edit, which no one has seen. It's just been polished up, had a few things added, some more music cues, some more little surprises here and there. So we're showing that film in its entirety. There's going to be a lot of cast and crew on hand for that, more than I thought already. And I think all the main people are going to be there, which is cool for the first film. And then we're going to be doing a Q&A for that. You're big in the second one, you know? And then we're going to be showing the first footage. It's not necessarily going to be a trailer, but we're going to be showing the first footage of Cruel Summer 2, which is called Sequel, Cruel Summer 2, and there's a reason for that. And hopefully hoping to have a premiere by right around the end of the year for this one. I'll make sure that all the main players are available for that one because I want everyone to see this the first time. I'm talking to you, Mr. Schneider, to actually be there for the premiere. It means a lot to me for everyone to be there for that. So it's going to be a great weekend. The convention's a cool convention. It's like its 3rd or 4th year, but Jim and I did it last year. He was going to do it this year, but he has to help his son move, so he's not going to be around. But this year they have like Tyler Maine, who's cool guy, Shawnee Smith from Saw, Amanda from Saw, and from a lot of other films as well for years. She's going to be there. The entire cast, pretty much, of Fear Street from Netflix, those movies. A lot of people there. A lot of different Michael Myers people there. A lot of people that played Michael Myers over the years. And it's a well-run convention, and apparently the film fest is good, and we're part of that. Friday night is where everything's going down for that.
Hell yeah! So, brother, are you willing to do me a favor?
Always.
Okay. So Paul is next up, and we're gonna cut this, and he's next up. What I did was add you to the call, so that in the messenger you'll get a new stream. Log in for about 5 or 10 minutes, so we can have the dynamic duo together for everybody listening for about 5 or 10 minutes.
That's going to be too much awesomeness on one screen. I hope it doesn't crash the system.
Oh, it's going to be awesomeness, but
Don't worry,
let's do this. You guys stay tuned. We're gonna end this. My brother, thank you very much for doing this. We're gonna bring you right back. Stay tuned. We're gonna shut this one down. We're gonna be on our 8 o'clock show, and we're gonna have the fucking dynamic duo from Ghost Hunters on for about 5 or 10 minutes, so you guys can ask them whatever you want. And I appreciate you sticking around. So you guys are awesome.
That'd be cool.
You guys are awesome. Join us here in the next couple of minutes.
Thanks, Jay, again. Thanks, Jason.
We'll be right back, everybody.